I just landed at Aspen to start my next adventure. This was inspired by a backpackinglight.com member, I think Brian Camprini, if I remember correctly how you pronounce the last name. But, he came out and did the 4-pass loop in early July, and basically didn't have to rent a car or get a hotel room if he didn't want. And I'd intended on getting out to the Rockies again at some point, whether Wind Rivers or maybe Lost Creek or Indian Peaks, you know, driving out to there, trying to hook up with some people. But when I saw his report and that I didn't need to actually worry about a car or lodging or anything, I thought, that's perfect. That's exactly what I was after. So just flew out from Indianapolis here to Aspen, and now going across from the entrance here to pick up the free bus into town, and pick up some other buses, hit the Aspen Recreation Center to get a locker, and then take the $6 bus up to Maroon Bells Trailhead. Ready to take off for my latest adventure. Planning on 7 days here in the Maroon Bells Wilderness, and going to be taking it easy to start with because I just came from 600 feet elevation this morning, and right about here I think is like 95, 9600, somewhere in there, and Crater Lake is close to 10,000. So I'm just going a couple miles there, spend a little time around there today, and spend the night. And this is the Crater Lake Basin, looking down valley basically. Came up over that area where apparently a lot of avalanches over the years have accumulated, so you had to climb up over a hill, then come back down basically to get to the lake. Very nice area. Tomorrow you can't see it very well at all here, but tomorrow I'll be going up, you know, through that area there, Minnehaha Gulch to Buckskin Pass. So I'm just going to wander around, try to find a decent place to camp around here, because I don't want to honestly stay in one of the designated campsites. They had a bear attack Friday morning and early Saturday morning, 2 different places right here down in these campsites here, and apparently there's some campsites just up the trail in Minnehaha Gulch. Same bear. They did shoot it apparently, or at least believe they shot the correct bear Sunday. This is something I had meant to do something about, but didn't get around to. Didn't have a chance to get an Ursack, because I recalled from last year in the winds and back here in the Maroon Bells, there was a real pain in the rear end to find a decent limb to do a bear hang from. You can see a poor little limb there doing its best. That's the best limb I could find around in the area, and we got a lot of trees. I mean, a lot of trees around in this area, but I mean, it's just frustrating. Aspen and pine are not good bear hanging trees. So any of you people out there that might watch this video, I'm curious what you do. If you don't use an Ursack and you're not above tree line where you can either bury it or hang it off a cliff, how do you manage getting your food hung? Feel good. Don't have any headaches this morning, so must be doing okay with the altitude. That's the direction I came from. But I can't help feel like I'm in a movie set, because there's not a cloud in the sky. So you got the old blue screen behind the mountains there, and even if it doesn't look like it on video, it definitely looks like they're almost painted right up against the flat wall. Well, I made it to Buckskin Pass, but for me it was a slog. Yeah, supposedly at 12,462, last 500 feet was pretty darn tough on me. But granted, I've only been here in Colorado for a little more than 24 hours, so I guess I can't expect miracles. That's where I'll be tomorrow, is on the other side of the ridge there. In fact, if I can get it right there, I think that right there is Buckskin Pass that I've contemplated going over, though looking at it from this side, I think I'll pass. That's kind of intimidating. We'll see what it looks like a little closer down the valley maybe. But I'll be going down that valley and then back up the other side of the mountains right there to get into Pierre Lakes Basin. I like the color contrast between the sandstone and the granite that you can see there. And I also happened to notice the couple spines that looked like they were sticking out of granite spines that were sticking out of the sandstone. See if I can get in there. Oh, there's one right there. And the other one is right across there. Thought those are kind of cool looking. Section of trail right here reminds me of the Wind River, except there's too much green on the hillside. You'd be up higher in the Wind River range at this point. Now that's the basin I'm aiming for, up there. Yeah, Snowmass and North Snowmass, I believe. Now I'm hoping to get above those falls to camp. I found the trail easy enough. It was pretty simple. Maybe 100 yards inland from where I was at most. You'll come across kind of a, it's not a lake, it's just where floodwaters deposit. And if you make your way around that, the trail follows along the opposite side. And when you get to this point, the trail comes out over where that log is. And you want to work your way basically just straight across over to here. Now this is the first talus or boulder fields, I guess, that you'll come across. You come out near those pine trees down there. As soon as you exit the pines, just go up just a little bit, and then you can pretty much follow sort of a shelf that someone, I guess, made over time. Kind of goes up and along, and just to the right of that dead tree stump up there, you see the falls over there. Then we'll get to the crux of the route. Now there's the falls, and supposedly the route preferred, I think, must go up that cut there and backtrack somehow. I'm running out of daylight though, so well, I'm shutting it down for the day. You can see I've lost most of the light. This is the last cairn I found, and I'm just not willing to go up at least the class 2 route that isn't marked very well. But God's shining upon me, because as it turns out, this last cairn got nice and nearly flat and nearly level this rock is. So I'm just going to sleep out here tonight and hope that it doesn't rain. Now, here's a better look at Home Sweet Home last night. You can see the cairn there. The falls are right over there. Inappropriate bear hang, but about all I was going to do when it was totally dark last night. Mainly just wanted to get it off the ground so the rodents wouldn't get it, hoping that my op sack would take care of any of the bigger animals. I'm not sure where the trail goes from here. I'm assuming up that way, because it looks very dense through there. The way I went was obviously not the right way. I ended up going way too high. But I've now come back down and finally found the trail again down in this evergreen grove. as you come to the end of the pine grove since the falls, right before you get to this next boulder field, I find a nice little campsite right over there, complete with firing. Also just saw my first porcupine. Unfortunately, he went off in the direction I need to go, so I'm not sure. I don't know anything about porcupines other than you don't want to get stuck. Didn't look like he could travel very fast, so maybe I could outrun him, but I don't know how aggressive they are, but he's kind of waddled away. When you reach this cairn right there, you're going to cross over this boulder field. There's actually several cairns out there. I don't know why they've got so many, but it looks like there's one there, and there's a couple over there, but you're going to eventually end up over there by that one there, and the trail goes pretty much straight up that hillside there. And there also happens to be a fairly decent campsite up in those pine trees right there. After you've come up the hill from crossing that other boulder field, you'll come across a ridge line of boulders, and there are cairns there, and basically they direct you to go up my right as I'm looking down here, over this way. And once you hit that big boulder that's right in the center there, and there's actually a cairn right next to it that you probably can't see on the video, you cross over to the other side, the left side here, and just follow up along the edge of the boulders and come all the way up here, and I'm standing right where the cairn is. That brings you over here, and then the trail continues off that direction there. And as you come around the hillside and climb a little bit, you're going to come upon this tiny little drainage coming up through here. But somewhere down around where that dead log is, you actually cross over to the other side, but there aren't any cairns near the shore. There are several cairns on the other side, but they're a good distance away from the shore, so you could miss where the trail cuts across. After coming up another boulder ridge, you're gonna follow the trail up along that way. Soon you'll come to a nice little water hole. It's not too deep, maybe a foot or two over on this side here, but you could probably get a little wash up if you needed. And apparently at the waterfall in the center frame, the original trail either goes up one side or the other of that waterfall, but the report that I read suggested turning left there and going up the slope that still has some grass on it, so you can avoid as much of the boulder field as possible and get into the basin quicker. The original trail goes over toward the smaller lakes, so if you turn left at that waterfall, you'll end up heading more toward the larger lake. The waterfall that I turned at would be somewhere downhill from right there. As you're coming uphill, shoot for the right of all these evergreens, and then you won't have to fight your way through them. I did find a little break right there in the middle that I got through, but it might just be easier to try to come over up this side of those evergreens. And then I was originally contemplating going up over that way, but I think I'll probably try for that. I don't want to end up too far right, or left I mean, but we'll see what it looks like once we get to the top of that. I'm sure there's another pile, because you can see that there's still a ridge right there that exists before you get into the basin. Okay, up that little hill there, and so I'm just gonna go straight across this boulder field and then up that little drainage, and hopefully that'll be all I need, but who knows. Well, almost there, just another ridge to go. The large lake should be right beyond that ridge right there. there's Snowmass Mountain, otherwise known as North Snowmass, I believe. Capitol Peak right there, and you can just see the tip of Clark Peak right there. Well, we finally made it. Here is the big lake, and I think the smaller lakes are, well, at least one of them is over that. I think there's one that is up, a small one up that way, that feeds into those two somehow. I ended up too far south of the lake, so if you want to come up over, when you come up that ravine and you see the hillside on your right with those evergreen shrubs, shoot more toward that side, and that'll take you pretty much to the edge of the lake there, down there. Of course, now the challenge is finding a campsite. This supposedly is the only all-rock basin in Colorado, and I can't wait to meet the person that made that cairn, but I don't want it to be on this trip. This trip is actually almost more than I can handle. So I've already decided long ago that I'm not even contemplating trying to go over Buckskin Pass at this point. Well, I'm going to get some weather finally. It's been holding off to the south and east there for several hours. Heard some thunder, but not a whole lot. You can see the rain coming down just on the other side of the Willoughby Mountain there. But praise God, I found a tiny little spot that was rock free. So set up my little tarp. Well, about 10 minutes later, and we have some hail coming down again. Pretty sure my tarp can withstand this kind of size, and doesn't seem to be having any problem with it. I don't know how big they get up here, but if I get golf ball, I'm probably in trouble. It's a nice morning. See the maroon bells between the Buckskin Pass over there. Okay, I'm standing next to the last pine tree right by the first waterfall, lower waterfall, and I pretty much aim for that evergreen, and you can't see it, but there's a big boulder just to the right of that. I pretty much did a straight line coming down from that location. The normal trail, it appears, from what I can see, kind of comes up and must go up over that way. I can just see a faint little, what looks like a footpath there. I forgot to mention when I was coming up that right behind this pool back in those pine trees there looked like a nice small campsite for a single tent. I'm sure you could find other level spots in the meadows here below the falls. But that one looked like it was already a somewhat durable surface. On your way out, you want to make sure you pretty much go right at the forks. I ended up going off on that one there, and ended up taking me to a rock face way over the waterfall. Not where I wanted to be. So I need to go this route over there. Well, lo and behold, I believe I found the trail again. It exits the pine trees straight center of the frame, comes straight across, and finally there's a cairn, which you can't see from over there, and the trail goes that way. So at least I'm back on the right track. You follow the trail level across the hillside, and you'll come to a very short but steep descent and come upon this group of boulders right here, and it looks like the trail turns toward the creek at this point. It appears once you come down about 100 feet, pretty much straight down, that rather than going down that cut there, I'm guessing it goes down this little crevice right here. At least I hope so, because I don't want to climb back up once I start down. When you get down the crevice, it appears the trail takes off to the right on a little shelf around the side of the hill. It actually goes to the left around that side and down. Now you follow the trail out of a mini aspen grove and come upon a small rock face. It's right there in the center of the frame, and it looks like the trail goes pretty much straight down and then across. You can see people have broken off the branches of aspen trees, so I assume that was a marker, and it appears that there's a cairn right there. And indeed, it pretty much comes straight down the face to this dead log here and enters the aspen grove again. Trying to follow this thing might not necessarily be easy, but in places it's pretty obvious. Here it's pretty obvious. I actually lost it once and miraculously found it again, but it essentially pretty much goes straight downhill. And it looks like we go through that little crevice right there, and you can see the falls over there. So we're actually not where the cairns go. The cairns are on the other side of this little ridge right there. Once you get to the bottom of that crevice, you turn to the right and toward this little rock face, and just looks like head down the edge of it for the most part. And there's the falls, and if you can see on video, there's a cairn right in the center. But this trail is still right in the middle of the brush. You got just to the left side of whatever plant that is. Just goes up through the weeds there and hits the edge of that rock face, right edge, and then turn in and pretty much straight up for a long time. And this is the trail going out. Alright, here's a recap of the trail as best as I can figure from down here. You go in on the opposite side of that bush with the orange berries and go up this side of that face, and you'll cut into the aspen there. You basically head straight up and then take a little further up. Then you kind of head off a little bit toward the left, I believe, and I think right behind that big pine tree right there is where that open face was, where I saw the cairn and the dead log that led back into the... So if that's the case, then you go up a little bit more and then off to the left, then up, and somewhere up in there are those crevices that you have to climb through, and then up, and then cut yourself over. You don't want to be above the pine trees, basically, so if you go that way, you went too far. I ended up actually crossing the trail. I went up on the other side of that ridge, of course, where that other cairn was, but I probably took a path basically like that, and then up. So I probably crossed the hill. I know I crossed the trail, but it's pretty much impossible to see unless you're actually on it, because as far as I could remember, there are only 2 cairns. It's only maybe 200 yards down from where I crossed, so that's what the other side looks like. All told, it took me about 6 hours to make it down out of the basin, including all my wrong turns. And I would just recommend you use the crossing I just did. You know, it's somewhat simpler, slightly shallower, so slightly less flow, but I still use my poles to get across, and that's just to be safe. It's only 150 yards down the trail at most, further north, so if you were coming up the trail, you'd hit that first anyway. It was a rough adventure for me, almost more than I could chew. Probably should have saved it till the end of my trip when I had a little more endurance in my legs, perhaps. I could hear a little bit of thunder right there. Once again, I was able to set up camp just before a thunderstorm came by. So really haven't had much rain, just a lot of wind and some thunder here and there. But I didn't get to where I wanted to. It took me too long to get out of Pierre Lakes Basin. My original plan was to go up and over Trail Rider Pass. But 6 hours to get out, and I don't know, probably 2-3 hours to get back up to Snowmass Lake. I decided to call it quits right here, and happened to find a nice spot about half an hour before the storm hit. Here's morning over Snowmass Lake. Now, that little notch right there in the center is Retracing Pass. I'm glad I didn't even try to attempt it. Now, I made it to the top of Trail Rider Pass in about 2 hours. You can hear a rock fall somewhere hidden behind one of those ridges.